Hey everybody. So we're coming to the end of the semester and I hope that so far you have learned something that you can take with you and that has been useful to you. I know that it's been a little bit difficult in some areas for some of you, but as much as we hate it, it helps us grow. Same thing for me. I told you that I am pursuing furthering my degrees right now, and it's it's a struggle for me sometimes too. So I feel your pain, but you're almost done. So this next paper is our last one, and it's probably the biggest in a lot of ways, but it's nothing you can't handle. So since this week is Thanksgiving break, that goes for GNTC as well. And the problem is that our last day of class for this semester is December 9th. So we have to be careful about that as far as how much, how much time do we have to get this in and done. So I know in the syllabus it says that we're going to do grammar and research this week. I'm dropping the grammar stuff just so that you can solely work on this. So if you'll bear with me, I'm going to show you how a thesis statement needs to be, because that is huge. And once you've got that nailed down, you're pretty much home free in a lot of ways. The only other thing that I'm going to upload this week for your review is MLA citation as far as Al Purdue and things like that, mainly because this is the one paper that you're actually going to need it on. So that's a quick link that you can just access. So if you'll bear with me, we're going to look at the main thing being purpose and audience. So no matter what essay you write, regardless of the style type, anything, your number one priority is purpose and audience. If you don't know who your audience is, in this case it would be me, but if you don't know who that is, then what you include may or may not matter. You've got to be careful. Let me give you a very quick example. So let's say that I ask for an essay about Hurricane Katrina, and I go to a bunch of fifth graders and ask them to write an essay to me about Hurricane Katrina and the effects that it had on the people there. Maybe that's something they're learning, whatever. Those fifth graders, if they know that I am their audience, they might try to explain to me, because I'm an English teacher and they don't know if I know what a hurricane is. So maybe in their paper, their introduction, something, they tell me the definition of a hurricane, what that is. But if I were to tell them to write the same essay, which I've done before, and change the audience to, say, a meteorologist, they shouldn't have the background of what a hurricane is, because the meteorologist gets paid to know that. Like that, they should know that. So it depletes the information you need if you know who your audience is, for example. The other thing is purpose. If you don't know what your purpose is, are you trying to persuade, are you trying to argue, what are you trying to do, then your information gets skewed. So as far as the thesis is concerned, we are going to focus specifically on argumentative persuasive for this research paper. I just gave you this as a reference, so that if you ever get asked, what's an expository, or I need you to write an analytical paper about, this is what it is, okay? But we're specifically targeting argumentative or persuasive, which is where we're going to make a claim about a topic and then justify that claim with specific evidence. So this paper is going to be thesis proof. You've got to prove something, and I'm going to give you some examples so that you can kind of reference that. So to write a developed and detailed introduction, you've got to have that clear thesis statement, and I will stop here and say, most teachers, especially growing up, will be like, put it at the beginning, and then you do, and it kind of kills it. So in this higher level of writing, we tend to say put it at the end, and maybe even the last sentence of the introductory paragraph, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. So the first thing you do is have your introduction of the topic. It could be a hook, it could be a stat, it could be a quote, it could be just some clever, just some way to get the reader interested to continue reading. And then you want to create some interest as needed and then provide necessary background information. Again, going back to that meteorologist example. And then identify your main idea that grows into your thesis, and then you're going to preview the rest of your essay with a thesis. You do not need to do 3-point thesis in this. What do I mean by that? You don't want to say, my favorite types of ice cream are vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry. Well, that's what we did in third grade. And that doesn't help anybody, because why am I reading your paper? I know what it's going to be about. You're not leaving anything to guess. I know your first body paragraph is vanilla, your second is chocolate, and your third is strawberry. I mean, that's it. So we want to avoid that. So you're going to identify your main idea with this thesis statement, and it's going to preview the rest of the essay. Remember that it can be 1 or 2 sentences. It's usually not more than that. And so you just want to be careful as far as don't, just make it point blank and move on. And that's something that you're going to get to do with your discussion board. So I'll show you how to do that. So for example, I pulled this essay topic because it's awful. And it's one that you actually might have or could run into with any kind of admissions process. So it said, what is one important goal you would like to achieve in the next few years? In your essay, identify that one goal and explain how you plan to achieve it. Use your personal observations, experience, and knowledge to support your essay. Now, in your essay, because we're on the college level now, you'd want to make it formal, which means that you can only use third person, which we've gone over. You do that for your classification and everything. But this particular prompt asks for my personal observations, experience, and that kind of thing. So I can use first and second person for this, so I am going to, because I specifically asked for it, but your essay won't do it. Same thing, different pronouns. So it wants me to specifically identify one goal and then explain how I'm going to achieve the goal. So the paper is not the goal itself. The paper is the plan that I have to reach the goal. So, for example, making goals for myself and working toward them keeps me on my toes and makes my life interesting. So there's a hook. In other words, the reader wants to be like, oh, your life is interesting. I want to know why. There are many goals that I would like to achieve throughout my life. So now we've got interest. We know there are multiple goals. What is the one we're focusing on? I have begun working toward many of them by looking into going back to school and thinking about what I'd like to do for a career. So here's my background. Here's my justification for this answer, basically. One major goal I would like to accomplish in the next few years is getting a job, which is growing into my thesis. In obtaining this, I have developed a plan. That's it. So my thesis is, that my goal is to get a better job, and I've developed a plan to achieve that. There's no 3 points to prove. This may be a 5-paragraph essay. You may write this and it may have 3 points to it, but you just don't state them in the thesis, and that's the big difference. So the basic things are the 4 Ds. This is just something that we say, hey, here's a clever way to remember how to do the paper. So define, divide, discuss, and drive home. Define for the reader what the essay or whatever you're writing for a future reference is going to address. And then divide the topic of the essay into parts to be discussed, and then drive that point home. That's the basic idea. So how do you tell a strong thesis from a short one? 4 main things. Going to go over them real quick. So 1, a strong thesis takes some sort of stand. So if I were to say there are some negative and positive aspects to the banana herb tea supplement, well, I don't know which side that I'm on. So as a reader, I would literally be looking for what side are they on. Do they think it's good or bad? A strong one, because banana herb tea supplement promotes rapid weight loss that results in the loss of muscle and lean body mass, it poses a potential danger to customers. Now I have a clear side. I'm against it. 2, they justify discussion. So my family is an extended family. Good. I'm glad it is, but that doesn't help you write this. It's not enough to give you some meat behind it. So strong. While most American families would view consanguineal marriage as a threat to the nuclear family structure, many Iranian families believe that these marriages help reinforce kinship ties in an extended family. Now I have something to talk about, and that's going to drive my paper. So 3, a strong thesis expresses one main idea and one main idea only. So if you look at the weak example that I gave you, we're mentioning that companies need to exploit the marketing potential of the internet, and web pages can provide both advertising and customer support. That means that I'm going to have to cover the marketing potential of the internet and web pages and how they provide both advertising and customer support. It's going to be a long paper, and it's going to be messy. But if I tweak it a little, I can make it strong by saying, because the internet is filled with tremendous marketing potential, companies should exploit this potential by using web pages that offer both advertising and customer support. So now I am only going to talk about the exploitation of using web pages. That's it. And finally, they are specific. So world hunger has many causes and effects is not specific enough. You would be writing forever trying to cover everybody's issues with this. But strong, hunger persists in Appalachia because jobs are scarce and farming in the infertile soil is rarely profitable. All right, specific location, specific problem, specific reason, something I can work with. So your thesis statement should be specific and cover what you're going to discuss in the paper, and it's going to be supported by that evidence. So basically, you can't just say it, you got to prove it, and you're going to use other sources to prove it. So the thesis statement usually appears at the end of the first paragraph of a paper. Your topic may change as you write, so you're welcome to change your thesis. It's not that you can't, but the faster you get your thesis approved, the easier it's going to be. So last thing, and I'm done. This week, like I said at the bottom, keep in mind December 9th is our last day of class. So your research papers really need to be in by December 6th, the latest, for me to be able to grade them in time. Because if I'm looking at the calendar correctly, December 6th is the Friday before. And that Monday is when your class ends. So that doesn't mean that the grades are like they come in on the 9th. It simply means that nothing else can be submitted after the 9th. So you've got to be careful and plan that way. So this week, because I know we're trying to spend time with family and friends, I don't want to take you away from that. This is just the way that it's scheduled. So your discussion board is simply going to be you writing a thesis statement. So I want you to think about some topic that you're actually interested in. You know, don't waste your time looking up stuff you don't care about. But look at something that you're actually interested in. For example, and this may seem silly, but I've had students write on this before. The bubonic plague could have been prevented. And it's actually an interesting paper for whatever that's worth. But, you know, it's something that you are actually interested in, so it's not just begrudging to actually look up stuff. So that your thesis statement, your attempt at a thesis statement that meets those 4 criteria is what I'm looking for on the discussion board. And I'm going to almost immediately respond as fast as I get the notification and tell you, yes, this will work. You might want to tweak this, that kind of deal. And then as soon as it's approved, you hit the ground running and look up what you need. So that's why I say use the break to look over and work on your rough draft. Research papers are hard for people to peer edit because they tend to be longer, but it's better to have somebody edit it. So I will quickly upload one other video to this module that explains the rubric for this because it's a little different than the others. It has been on there the entire time, but you haven't needed it until this paper. So I hope that you have an awesome Thanksgiving break. You have been a fabulous class, and I will be looking for your thesis statements. Thank you.